YouTube, this is Lucidus Lux. I want to come to you with a review on my Magic Chef 110 dryer that I purchased about 3 years ago now. Just want to kind of talk about the pros and the cons, how it's held up for me so far, and what you could expect, as well as some of the functions and some issues that I've noticed with the comment section prior with this particular model. So right off the bat, I just want to say that I have used this dryer very consistently. It's been my main dryer for the past 3 years. I haven't had a lot of issues with it. I do like it because it's the 110 volt model. I really had some negative reviews when I first started, and a lot of people complaining that it doesn't dry the clothes as fast, and I was a little skeptical when I bought it. But I do like the 110 version because it's great if you have an apartment or a little tiny house like I do, and you don't want to wire it for some heavy 220. The 110 has worked fine for me. It dries clothes very quickly. Sometimes I don't even have to run the heat in the wintertime. This will heat up the house, given my house is only 400 square feet. But this will heat up the house pretty efficiently, and actually it works quite negatively in the summertime when I'm running the AC because it's just so hot. I'll oftentimes run it in the evening. But the 110 has really been working well. I haven't had any major issues. I have never had a 220 small portable version. I built this one just right under my stove here, just because of how it fits. I have the wash machine over here, and so they're side by side. So right off the bat, you've got a couple vents, and I want to address some questions some people have asked me as well. But first off, you have the intake vent right here. This is probably going to be pretty dirty. I've used this about twice a week. It'll handle almost anything you throw at it. This is where the air comes in. It's important to keep this clean. As you can tell, it's overdue for a cleaning. A lot of times I will take this, it's almost like a felt-based screen, and I will rinse it out, spray it out with a sink, and I'll just toss it in there with a couple pairs of socks or something. It rubs against this and it gets all the dirt off it, or it just kind of dries it out pretty consistently. As far as the functions, it's got quite a few options here. You have the sensor dry mode. If you turn this on when it's pushed in, when you push it in, it's off, actually. But when it's off, it'll just run consistently. It'll just run until it stops, like a normal dryer. I like keeping it on, and that's basically because it will turn off automatically when your clothes are dry. It will sense if it's like any common dryer. Nowadays, it's kind of a standard almost, where before it wasn't. And basically, it senses when your clothes are dry, it turns it off, and it won't start again for at least another 20 minutes. And that is one detriment when you're doing laundry back to back to back. If you have this on, is it will automatically shut off, and you can take the clothes out, put new clothes in, shut the door. It doesn't matter where you have this turned, it won't start again until it's reset itself, which is around 15, it's right between 15 and 20 minutes. I haven't timed it exactly, but it's right at that mark. So this is a nice function, but doing back to back, it does, I just put it in there and I'll leave, and 15 minutes later it started on its own. Over here you have the eco mode. I don't use this a whole lot because it works with cooler modes. It works if you want to save some power. But honestly, it's got such a short duration for drying clothes. It gets pretty warm. And this will also cause it to cycle off. So it'll cycle off mid-cycle and just kind of let it rest and start back up automatically. And this is also for some of the cooler modes, which I'm using it pretty heavily. I'm not really using it for anything light, so I just keep eco mode off most of the time, and I leave it on normal mode. As far as the dial itself, I have had some issues with this as far as where I put it. So I've noticed pretty early on, most of the time I keep it about 120 minutes. It will go all the way over to about 200. If you put it over at 200, by the time it gets to about 120, your laundry's basically dry. That's the hottest mode. It's highlighted in red. But if you leave it here, by the time it gets on up to about 20, your load is done. Some of the things I don't like about this is there seems to be a flaw with the dial, and I've really tried to figure this out, and honestly, I can't make heads or tails of it. The dial will sometimes run backward, and I am not entirely sure why this is. I think it has to do with the way you set it. If you were to turn it from off over here to 120, then it will go back the other direction. But if you were to turn it from this side over to 120, or even to just 160, sometimes it will just go backward and it'll go toward this off here. So sometimes I've come home and I'll put it right here, and if I turn it the wrong way, that's what I think it is, and that's what I boiled it down to. Every once in a while, it'll just go complete backward. The clothes will still be damp, it'll be turned off, and it's really annoying because I'm expecting it to be dry. So what I've been doing is I've started from this off and I've turned it this way, and it's been pretty well, because then it'll go the way it should. Because I'll be honest, I don't use the kind of the light mode over here, the more the air fluff. I'm using it regularly. So that is one annoying thing. And when you have it on the heat sense mode, it will just turn off mid-cycle and it will stop. And then you got to take the clothes out, because about 20 minutes later it's going to restart, and then it will of course turn off when it senses it's dry. So there has been some confusion with this, and that's what I've narrowed it down to. But every once in a while it'll still do that. It'll just go backward, and if you know exactly the reason for that, I've been very busy with quite a few jobs, and I haven't had time to really sit down and play with it. But other than that, it's a little bit annoying. It's actually worked pretty well. As far as capacity, this will hold almost anything I throw at it. I have had this about halfway to 3/4 of the way full. My wash machine will only take half my sheets at a time, and that's where the bottleneck is. My higher wash machine, if you watch that review, the dryer will take everything. I've thrown sheets in there with pants. Sometimes the pants will be caught in the sheets and they'll be kind of in a ball in the middle and they're not dry all the way, and I'll have to, like, redistribute the clothes. But this thing will take anything. It's a beast. 3 years later, it hasn't had a lot of issues with the front. As far as venting this, because I get this question a whole lot, you need to vent this outside unless you really enjoy a humid environment where things might start rusting. So yes, it's true, if you vent this indoors, you can have a lot of heat, it'll blow hot air inside your house. But also think of this, you're taking all of the moisture from those clothes and you're venting that inside your house. So pretty much all the water in your clothes is now being aerosoled, so to speak, within your house. And you'll notice you'll start getting rust on some of your metal things that you have around, because you're pretty much humidifying your house. So if you enjoy like a hot swamp, then that's what will happen if you vent it inside. So yes, to those people that have asked, definitely vent it outside, unless that's your mission, is to pretty much humidify your house at the same time. I don't recommend it. As far as the lint trap, I've had a lot of people mention they don't like this, and I'm not sure why, because honestly it's very convenient for me. The lint trap is right back here, and it's this, and it's probably going to be pretty full because I just did a heavy load. It's kind of a two-fold lint trap. We have the main lint trap right here. As you can see, you just peel it off, and it's got four sections there. It's pretty simple. You just peel it off and stick it back on there. But it also has this little, very much like the front, this little felt that sits behind, and it's important to have that there because this will gather. I have a golden retriever, so as you can tell, even when I wash my clothes, I still have some golden hair on everything that comes off in the dryer. This will catch the rest. So the first one does not catch most of it, and you can see along the edges there's some lint because along the edges of this, it overlaps on the back side to keep it from going into your dryer vent. That's very important because you can actually have a fire. It plugs up dryer vents fairly easy. I used to do a lot of maintenance on these, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen just a dryer vent completely stuffed because no one's checking and changing the lint trap. A little trick, just to let you guys know, because to clean this off, it's like impossible. This is felt. How are you gonna really clean that off? I don't get this wet. I don't rinse it off. I'll pull the hair off from my dog. I'll pull some of it off and just throw it away. But a trick is just throw this in with your next load and turn it on with just this regular lint trap on the back, completely cleaned off this screen, and give it about 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, turn it off. This will be completely clean. Not only is it completely clean, because the clothes will rub against this and knock all the lint off, and the lint will now be on this screen here. And you'll see it. You'll see all the hair. You'll see everything right here. Now, yes, a little bit may escape and go on back into the dryer vent, but most of it gets trapped on the first screen. And you have a perfectly clean screen because, honestly, how else are you going to clean that? That's just a pain in the butt. All this lint is stuck to it. And, you'll spend a while getting it wet and trying to scrape everything off. Quickest way to do it, throw it in there for a couple minutes, and just about 5 minutes, and it's done. So that's how I clean that off. So overall, I really don't have any complaints. I've noticed it about, I want to say, the 2-year mark. The drum did squeak a little bit, and it's because I've used it so heavily. So as it's going, you'll hear this slight little squeak, squeak, squeak. It's not loud. It's very hard to hear. It is noticeable, but it's not too bad. It's nothing obnoxious like the washer where it makes this Gatling gun sound if you've overloaded it. And that's probably because I have put a little too much in this, but it's handled it like a champ. I've really had no issues besides the timer going the wrong way. But other than that, this is held up. I would recommend it. You could probably use this for a family, not just 2 people, because I've been able to stick as much as I can fit in there, and it's dried it in a very, very timely manner. Very much on par with a normal dryer, if not a little faster because it's smaller. There's no expedited mode on it, but I paid around $300 off Amazon, and it's held up pretty well, so I would highly recommend it. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the bottom, the comment section. But other than that, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.